Did you ever realize that the biggest threat to your company is not actually your competitors? It's your own employees. And more specifically, your own employees when they're silent. For years, employees are losing trust in their leaders, and that just keeps getting worse and worse. But it's also a product of the situation and the environment. So many people are getting promoted before they're actually ready. And as a result, your employees are not getting well supported because their supervisors and managers haven't been properly trained. So it's sort of a vicious cycle that really you've created. And then all of your employees, specifically your high performers, they start giving you one-word answers. They start saying things like, sure, okay, no problem. You know that if they're only giving you one-word answers, there is a real issue, because normally your high performers will actually speak up. But when they've gotten to the point that they don't want to speak up, that's when you have to listen. I had a situation some years ago where there was a newish leader coming into a team. Now, the team had existed for a long time. This leader had just moved to this location, and so was taking over this team. And the team was about 20 or so employees. Everyone was excited to have this new leader sort of learn from them, guide them, etc., because they'd heard so many great things about this person, and over the years, when you hear good things, you're going to expect something from the leader. So the first 3 to 6 months is always about getting to know each other, understanding, what strengths we have and what areas of opportunity we have, etc. And eventually, it almost became very clear that there was a divide, and the leader had favorites. And if you were not one of the favorites, you were not supported. You were not even called upon to do an extra project. You may not have been invited out for a drink. Like it was very clear favoritism. So the ones that were being favored, of course, loved that leader, but the others were left alone to do their job on a day-to-day basis and really didn't get support. And so comes time for an employee survey. And I say, luckily, those employees that didn't feel supported actually spoke up, and it finally got out there and became apparent that this leader was not all the things that everyone thought that they were, and now the leader ended up being performance managed because they are held to a high standard and they also need to be delivering, right? The whole purpose of a leader is to set your employees up for success, and that's every single one of them, not just the ones that you like. Hi everyone, my name is Jose Larocque Patton, or Jose LP I usually say, sometimes also just JLP. For over 25 years I've been helping leaders with those uncomfortable conversations and trying to make them a little bit more comfortable. So related to this situation where employees are not trusting leaders, there's so many suggestions that I can give you, but some of the 3 that I've even implemented myself over the years when I had a team of 30 people are as follows. My first one to really help have your employees trust you is to implement a 48-hour rule. Now, sometimes I even do 24 hours, but that doesn't always work for everybody. I would say 48 hours is very reasonable and fair to your schedule, fair to other people's schedule. So what do you think that 48-hour rule is? Well, when you ask your employees for feedback, you actually get back to them in 48 hours. When they send you an email or leave you a text message or leave you a voicemail, you get back to them in 48 hours or less. If you have to seek other assistance and maybe get other people to help you answer something for one of your employees, you still do that within 48 hours. Now, of course, I'm not saying you have to have the answer to absolutely everything, right? You're not expected to know everything, but you are expected to support your leader. That's why you got promoted. That's why you're getting paid big bucks, right? To be that leader. So a 48-hour rule, again, is very reasonable. And once you start instilling that for yourself, you also now can promote that for your team and have your team do that back to you, your team do that to the clients, etc. So it's a great rule of thumb to help really start building that trust and then continue. It's a great trend to continue throughout your business. And so for more tips on how to implement that 48-hour rule and tips and guides and things, please don't forget to click that link below and you can get that free guide. The second tip that I really believe in, I have to say, I talk about this in so many places, so many businesses, now with clients. Even when I was an employee, I used to drive this home all the time. I really pushed my leaders to do this, and because I was like this, I'll get to the point here. It's really, again, about transparency. So when you're an employee and you want to trust your manager, you need your manager, your boss, your leader to be transparent. But you need to be transparent too. So what does that mean? When I was a leader and I had a big team, if I made a mistake, I would tell people, hey, I own that shit. I made a mistake. I get it, If there's something going on in the team or the organization, I would also tell my team. If it was something confidential that I couldn't tell them, I would tell them. I have information for you, but I can't tell you just yet, And people will respect that. They don't always like it, but they'll respect it because you're keeping them in the loop. You're owning your own shit. And again, you're promoting that within your team. And the more that you do that, the more your team is going to want to do that with you. And it also builds loyalty. And that is a huge thing for me, for people to have each other's backs, So being transparent and really owning yourself, your mistakes. No one's perfect, we all learn from them. But I really do feel that that helps build that trust with your team. And now my third and final one that I do like, not as much as the others, because it's a little bit harder, but it's about making your decisions a little bit more transparent. So like we said, we're talking about having employees wanting to trust their leaders. There's a lot of things as leaders that you can't make decisions in front of your employees, You can't share sometimes things with them, just like I said in our tip number 2. But any possible thing that you can make a decision as a team and make it openly, whether it's a good decision, a positive decision, a negative decision that's going to affect people, the more that you can involve them in that decision-making process, the more they feel like they're part of a team. But then you can also tell them, I'm going to take your thoughts and feelings into account. However, I'm going to make the final decision, based on what I'm doing at another meeting or, those kind of things. Because you also don't want your employees to think now that they can make decisions, for the company, but they should have an input, absolutely should have an input. But I know this one's a bit harder, so that's why it's in my top 3. It's still my third. It still absolutely, though, helps build trust with your employees, but it is a bit harder. It takes a little bit more work and stuff too. So don't forget that guide that we talked about, because we'll have some tips and tricks. So these are my tips, though, really to help, build that trust with your employees. And remember that some of this as a leader, it's not your fault. It's great that you got promoted in a position that the organization has trusted you to promote you, to lead people. And sometimes an organization doesn't necessarily set you up for success. But if you're in this position and you want to succeed, then you've got to be resourceful on your own. So just because a company is not necessarily going to set you up for success and get all the training, it's up to you to get that training on your own, right? Being resourceful is going to help you be a better leader, and obviously a better leader for your team. I look forward to seeing you on my next video.